When I was in 5th grade, I did something that would change my life forever. The onion cell lab. Took some onion skin, dyed it, and put it under a microscope. And when I peered through the lens at those microscopic onion cells, I was amazed. I immediately fell in love with science, and throughout middle school I honed my interest in cellular biology. And in that research, I discovered the true potential of genetic engineering. And that is why I am here today. But what is genetic engineering? Genetic engineering is the manipulation of an organism's genes. Genes, not the denim, but the tiny little thing inside of all of your cells. Those tiny little things are the code of life. They code for my black hair, my brown eyes, and unfortunately, my height. And your laughs at that. With genetic engineering, we can manipulate these genes and change characteristics in a human. But it can achieve more than cosmetic changes. Genetic engineering has the potential to treat a lot of genetic disorders. 1 in 21 people suffer from a genetic disorder, and many of these are known as single gene disorders, which means 1 of the 20 to 25,000 genes in the human body is coded incorrectly. And that one typo causes major disorders like cystic fibrosis or sickle cell anemia. With genetic engineering, we can treat and cure these disorders using something called gene therapy. And as we advance our knowledge in genetics, we can change more complex topics like intelligence, longevity, and strength. There's so much to look forward to in genetics, but some people want to go farther than what others are comfortable with. Genetics, there are 2 types of genetics, somatic and germline. So far I've been talking about somatic, which is changing your own body's cell. Germline is changing gametes, also known as sperm or egg cells. This not only changes the child conceived from those cells, but their entire bloodline. China recently shocked the world by creating designer babies using germline editing. And this is what made genetic editing so controversial. For starters, genetics is a complex language, and we don't really understand it yet. We could easily make a mistake, and the person being edited could suffer. On the flip side, the only way to introduce genetic editing to the public is through human testing. Rigorous human testing involving thousands of people. And then there's eugenics, which is tailoring of population genes. This isn't really a new thing. Eugenics has been practiced since ancient times, where indigenous Brazilian tribes would murder babies with physical abnormalities. And eugenics has been repeated time and time again through interbreeding races to get rid of a minority, sex-selective abortions, and racial genocide. Now with genetic editing, we can remove traits we don't want before a child is conceived, making eugenics much more effective than it ever has been before. This begs the question, with all of these cons in genetic editing, is it worth it? The overall consensus in the scientific community is that genetics is a powerful tool, but it needs to be strictly enforced and tested before being released. But do you agree with this? Do you think genetics is a tool or a weapon? No matter what though, genetics will become a part of our society one way or another. Companies like CRISPR Bio and Graphite Therapeutics are making genetic editing much more advanced by creating technologies like CRISPR or better genetic mapping machines, making genetic editing faster, cheaper, and more diverse. Many people are skeptical about this technology, but to quote Albert Einstein, if we knew what we were doing, it would not be called research, would it? Thank you.